Aloha everybody, I'm Angus McKelvey and welcome to Facing Our Future. And again, as we look at issues facing us in Hawaii and how we can best utilize them, look at the potentials they have, and face our future. Today we're going to look at biking, alternative transportation, safe routes to school. With oil prices skyrocketing and volatility in the Middle East, now more than ever, alternative modes of transportation are needed in Hawaii. And joining me today are two special guests, Chad Taniguchi, President of the Hawaii Bicycle League, and Mark Librie, President of Pedego Kailua. Welcome, gentlemen, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Angus.
Thank you.
So let's talk about, first of all, I want to start with you, Chad. I met you through Representative Lowen, and what was really she told me of a tragic accident that happened to you. So maybe you could tell us what happened so far as this incident, and maybe enlighten the viewers as to some of the specifics. Chad?
Sure.
Yeah.
April 27, the Hawaii Bicycling League had a 62-mile ride called the Haleiwa Metric Century Ride from Haleiwa to Swansea, and we had 900 riders.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was going fine, but a car full of drunk young men were harassing the cyclists and telling them to get off the road when cyclists also belong on the road. And at one point, their car pulled over, they got out, and two of them started attacking the cyclists and kicking them on the head. And I was a course marshal in another car coming the opposite direction. I just happened to be there at the exact time when that was occurring on the other side. I didn't see them hitting the cyclists, but it looked like something bad was going to happen. So I went out, and then one of them just rushed at me, hit me on the head with their elbow and fist, and then slammed me on the hood of the car that I was driving. And so then I ended up with a broken heel. And 6 people were assaulted that day by those two guys. And as far as we know, well, they were drinking beer, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they were looking for trouble because nobody tried to harm them or stop them or anything, but anybody in front of them got hit, got punched, kicked. And so, that's not your normal driver.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that's not your normal. But is that
Yeah.
something that, and Mark, to you, in Kailua, you have a lot of areas where bicyclists and motorized traffic are in the same area. Is there a common disregard or lack of awareness or even aloha from drivers with bicyclists, or is this type of thing, especially this incident, which is truly a rarity, is this, I guess, truly a rarity, anomaly, or is there an attitude of drivers in general when it comes to bicyclists?
This seems to be an exception. Most motorists are pretty, they're very, they know the bikes are there, and they're good. Every once in a while you get people that'll yell out of the car, but for somebody to stop, get out, and beat Chad, that's these guys were just looking for somebody to punch out, and that was their thing for the day. It happens, and they need, to be taken care of by the police.
Yes, I hope the justice system will be swift on these guys. But
so if the guy gets prosecuted for felony assault and goes to jail, then he needs to think about what he did and change his ways. But going to jail necessarily, to me, is going to become a more hardened criminal. So if we have a chance, if he's found guilty, then we'd like him to be sentenced to no more driving, go walk or ride a bike.
That would be...
And then maybe see it from the other side. And it'd probably be great for him too. He'll get healthier than he is now.
Yeah, instead of drinking, he'll be bicycling. And it's funny that you say that, because in my capacity on Maui, we have walking and biking, safe routes to school, complete streets as an integral part of trying to meet our transportation needs. And I've met with advocates for Pedego Maui And others that say, hey, I support this, it's a good thing, but until you actually get on a bicycle, until you get on one of your electric bicycles and experience, what it is to be out there. First thing I noticed was immediately, I tried to take a little section of road, and then all of a sudden cars are like, wham. And you're like, whoa, okay, now I get it. The aha moment, as psychologists call it, So, I recognize that drivers aren't so much, not showing aloha, but they're just, in their mind, bicyclists are either like cars, and therefore, in their mind, the same rules of the road, or they're kind of like, okay, a secondary citizen almost. They blow by a lot, very close to the bike lanes and such. And, as you move forward with biking solutions in areas like Kailua, and you have this kind of integrated traffic, has there been, especially the local community, has there been an appreciation of the culture of biking and using it as for health and transportation and getting around town? Or is there still a kind of a car mentality within the local community that you see?
There's a total car mentality in the local community, and people don't understand that the bikes are there getting cars off the road. So, the complaints I get from people are the fact that, Kailua now, we have a lot of tourists, which we didn't have, and so we get complaints because we rent bikes out to the tourists. Well, which would you rather have? People on bikes looking, going around, or people in cars? We try and deal with the traffic problem. I live in Lanikai. The traffic on almost any nice day now sometimes it takes you an hour to get out of Lanikai. I'm talking less than a mile. So, on bikes, you can get in and out. I think we're helping the problem, not creating more of a problem, yet we still have people that are totally anti-bike and anti-electric bike especially.
Yeah, go ahead, Chad, please.
If those tourists were driving, they'd be either from the mainland or maybe from Asia, and they wouldn't know the rules of driving here. So you'd have somebody in a car that could hurt somebody, and so it's way better for them to be walking or biking, and then they're not going to hurt anybody. They may get hurt, but our drivers are really good actually. So the complaints are from drivers who dislike having to be so watchful and careful of cyclists, but when you go to places where walking and bicycling at the top of the pyramid, that's what a driver does. Driver knows that they have the faster, bigger vehicle that can hurt somebody. Therefore, I, as a driver, have to be extra cautious of those who are without protection on the road, where a metal object going fast can really hurt people. So I think that's the mentality we need to have. And that's because on a legal basis, the roads are made for everybody.
Yes.
And cyclists are like vehicles. Of course, what we're trying to do to encourage more people to bike is make separate places on the road, like bike lanes, bike paths, and this complete streets idea is complete the streets for everyone, for a pedestrian, for a cyclist, for somebody in a wheelchair, complete the streets so all of us can use it safely. And I think if we change our mentality and not think about just rushing, but okay, I am fortunate to be driving a car. Now, how am I going to be a good citizen doing that?
Mark, do you see that, when you rent your bicycles out and you have the electric bikes, do you see that, that the Complete Streets program is being done to get Complete Streets would be helpful? You get visitors using bikes, you don't have less traffic coming in, now the community starts to use them. Do you think that this is the way for your neck of the woods especially to go to try to reduce this gridlock of the 1 hour drive?
Yeah, if there were bike lanes that connected all the way through, and I'm speaking about Kailua, Kailua town, through down Kailua Road to the beach park, and then, the nice thing is once you're at the beach park in Kailua, you have the whole bikeway. From there, you go into Lanikai. Lanikai was the test for bikeways back in the 70s when the streets got turned from, the loop got turned from two-way streets into one-way streets with bike lanes. The nice thing about Lanikai is the bike lanes go both directions.
Yes.
Where if you're riding in Kailua, you need to be on the right side of the road in those bike paths. what I like about them, you being able to go in both directions, is the one thing I make sure of is whenever a car is approaching me or I'm approaching an intersection, I'm looking at those people. Are they looking back at me? Do
Yes.
we have eye contact? If I have eye contact, I know I'm safe. If I don't have eye contact, I'm on my brakes at that point, slowing down, because I know they'll run me over. A lot of people do not see bicyclists, pedestrians, and it gets dangerous out there.
So do you think there's a need for a public education awareness campaign, you know, on behalf of private entities, government, and others for drivers, you know, like we do with Click It and Ticket and some of these other programs? Do you think that would have an effect?
Definitely. You know, when I go visit Northern California, and the bikers actually have the right of way on every road, and even if you're driving on the smaller one-lane roads, you know, and on the weekends, the bikers are out in force there, where these guys are like Tour de France.
Minus Lance
and
Armstrong,
seriously, they take up the entire lane, but they have the right of way, and it's much safer. It slows people down, and that's what really angers them.
Well, but it's funny because if you slow people down, and this is part of the smart growth principles, you know, your smart planning, you want to slow people down in these mixed use areas, especially in smaller towns, and you want to create you know, a sense of place and community and a slower lifestyle. And by taking the cars off, by having biking, you tend to slow that down. Is that something that in Kailua that you see happening as more and more bikes perhaps are being used, or walking and biking is being embraced?
Yeah, the area from Kailua town up to where Kailua Road turns and makes a left towards Kailua Beach Park, they just put a new bike path in front of the new condominiums, and that's really going to help. Now we need, you know, the other part of Kailua Road to be able to connect, like I said, so it's a continuous bike trail around all of Kailua. We're really lucky that we have so many bikeways, though, but it would be really nice if they all connected.
And Chad, you were talking about, you know, Representative Matsumoto and others that worked on trying to get this for the North Shore area, which, as you know, has major traffic problems. Can you give us an update on that project at all? Or
Sure. So just conceptually though, when you have to go far, go on the freeway, go on a fast highway, bicyclists are not going to be there. But once you get to a town, then if we can work it so that the car becomes not the primary mode of transportation, but walking and biking become the primary mode, then we'll start to get more people doing the short trips on bikes and by walking. So in the North Shore, there is a 2-mile bike path now in Wailua, Mokuleia. And people go to the elementary school there. What Representative Matsumoto and her constituents have done is get funding to extend that bike lane to the Wailua High and Intermediate School. So that means all the students in that area can go by bike to elementary school, intermediate, or high school. And that would be a lot safer. It's probably going to be also a great exercise area for people because, you know, like even in Laie, there's a bike path built and people use it all the time. They're walking, using their strollers, they're bicycling. So people are craving for places where they can bike and walk.
do you think that there's a recognition, you know, especially to go back to Mark's point about the connection of bike, you know, systems, so you could theoretically, you know, go from different areas, although it sounds like the car staging thing seems to be the approach on the North Shore. Is there any kind of consistent effort in government when you talk to highway planners to try to create this integrated system, or is it more right now of a piecemeal type of thing, like a trail here or, you know, a segment of road there? I mean, do you see any kind of continuity going on, or is it really ad hoc at this point?
It's ad hoc at this point, and I think that our governor, our mayors, all of our state and city and county reps should all get on board. This is good for everyone.
Yes.
People get exercise, they're outside, they're not in their car stuck in traffic. I mean, it's a really good thing, and I just think everybody needs to get on board. What's bad about bike lanes?
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't think of anything, you know, that's bad about it.
And you see now, I mean, the case in point with the federal government, you see the federal Department of Transportation creating areas where they're not allowing bicycles. The case in point is the Lahaina bypass in Maui. The bridge section does not, even though there's a bike lane, which, funny thing, you gotta love government, right? There's a bike lane on the bridge, and yet you cannot take a bike across it, which pretty much means that anybody who's commuting along that bypass, and there's a residential area right there, anybody who's commuting has to stop at that bridge and go around and go all the way back downhill in town, and now you're refunneling congestion down to one road, which you're trying to avoid.
That's something that I think Saman Diaz and other people on Maui are gonna probably try to change, because we're the Hawaii Bicycling League. We're mainly on Oahu, but we're a statewide organization, and Saman and other people on Maui are trying to set up a Maui chapter of the Hawaii Bicycling League. And I'm sure they're gonna push for more connections and less restrictions for bicycling.
When you work with here in Oahu with City and County Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation, what's the general, when you deal with them attitude? Is it one of, okay, walking and biking is important, we want to try to create complete streets, or is there still an old school engineer mentality of, highways are for cars, main line for the green time for the main line and all of that? What's been your experience?
The City and County of Honolulu has been absolutely terrific.
Excellent.
You see it in the paper, you see it on the news. Mayor Caldwell and Mike Formby, the Department of Transportation Services, they want to create a bike-friendly city, and they're doing things like on King Street, right outside the studio, starting from Alapai toward University, they're going to take a whole lane that's really not needed because there's 6 lanes on King Street. They're going to convert it to a bicycle lane that's protected from cars. And it's going to be initially a one-way bike lane and eventually a two-way bike lane. So that's the first one. And then they're thinking about other cross streets on Pi'ikoi, Pensacola, Ward, South, going Makamakai. And these are, to get to and from them, you're going to have to go through traffic. But once you're on them, then they'll be protected from traffic except for the intersection and the driveways. So that's a tremendous thing that's going to happen in Honolulu. Now, just to be honest, Department of Transportation is not very interested in doing bike-friendly things. That's just the way it is. And so the current governor, we have to get Governor Abercrombie and the Department of Transportation to change their mindset and to realize that their job is not only to move cars, but is to allow people to walk and bike also, because that's equality of choice for transportation, right? Are you going to force everybody to drive in a car because that's the only way that's safe to go? Or are you going to let people walk and bike, save money, get fit, and really enjoy Hawaii? Why are we driving around in cars in Hawaii?
Exactly.
And Angus, if I can just
please.
And with gas right now at $4.35 a gallon, and we now have the Iraq thing, and it's gonna go up.
Very good point.
I literally fill my truck up, which I'm a contractor, so I have to use my truck whenever I need it. But I literally fill my truck up now every 2 to 3 weeks instead of 2 or 3 times a week, because I'm on my bike. If I go anywhere in Kailua now, even if my wife and I go out to dinner at night, we ride our bikes now. We rarely get in our cars.
That's excellent. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back with Chad and Mark and talk more about biking, complete streets, and of course, can biking be a solution in public safety as well as everyday commuting? We'll be right back.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you great thing.
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us. Come
Okay,
join
it's
us.
every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every
Energy
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Energy
We'll see you
Wednesday.
there.
We're talking about biking, alternative transportation, safe streets, and when we were off air, I always say the best conversations happen off air. We were talking about the health aspect, the fitness aspect of bicycling, and you mentioned something about you've had people rent your bikes or use your bikes that were like, very heavy, and you've seen, we're talking about how the health improvement. Maybe talk to us about what you've seen in that area.
With electric bikes, people, I get a lot of negative reactions about the bike having electric power. And I don't think that the bikes are made for bicyclists or people who are looking to get real exercise. The bikes are there for people with handicaps, for people who haven't ridden in years, really want to get out there, but they don't want to worry about having to get home if they get too far away. People who are overweight, looking to lose weight. There's some folks on the mainland that have bought Pedego bikes. One woman was over 300 pounds and she's lost over 100 pounds because she's out there riding her bike. Yeah, it has electric assist. She can get up hills, which she wouldn't be able to do if she was on a regular bike. But also, because of the pedal assist aspect of some of the bikes, you're pedaling. You're constantly pedaling to make the bike go. So you are getting exercise from them, and it's good. I have people with handicaps. I can think of one girl in particular, China, who has muscular dystrophy. She bought a bike from us. She had been riding a bike and she was continually falling. She bought a bike from us. We actually customized it so that the throttle and all the working parts were on her strong side so she can ride. I see her riding all the time, all over Kailua now. They are a wonderful thing, and I get a lot of slack from people about it, but I feel like these are helping our traffic, our society, and our community.
So what is the difference between, the electric bike, the Pedego, as opposed to like maybe some of these other mopeds or other gas powered systems? Is there confusion that, when people hear electric bike, they think moped or motorcycle, and not, like you've described it as an assister or a type of thing that helps the bicycle, especially those with physical challenges or difficult terrain, to be able to ride the bike?
Yeah, they are. In fact, the bikes are limited, at least our bikes, our Pedego bikes, and most of the electric bikes out there are limited to 20 miles an hour, which there is federal legislation, I believe it's HR 727, that says as long as the bikes are under 750 watts, they go under 20 miles an hour, they're considered bicycles, and you can pedal them. The nice thing about our bikes is for the same price on Oahu as 1 gallon of gas, we get 1,100 miles out of a bike. On Maui, Lee did the math, and it came out to 790 miles because their gas prices are higher over there. So we're talking about huge distances you can go on almost no money. There's a woman right now, she's riding across country on a Pedego bike. I read a blog she did yesterday that she has 3 batteries, so she can change them out. She used up a battery and a half, and she went 83 miles in one day. So, it's a great thing.
So this could be actually something that could be used for some of these longer distances between towns, as opposed to, what is a traditional bicycle. Now, Chad, in the Hawaii Bicycle League or in the bicycling community, is there any type of division or 2 camps as far as electric bikes and regular bicyclists go? Is there any type of misperception, or is it one big bicycling community?
Oh, there's mountain bicyclists, fixed gear cyclists, road bikes, and electric bikes. I personally have ridden electric bikes and tried them out, and I think they're great. I'm not gonna buy them for another 20 years, I think, because I know that for me, if I have an electric bike, I'll tend to use the electric more than my body. And
Oh,
I
now
want to
we're getting
exercise.
interesting.
Chad,
Okay.
right now you should have an electric bike with your
Foot.
cast on. You riding a bike.
Exactly. Now
Yeah,
we're getting
that's
into, see,
true.
there is a rivalry. This is just like the Harley Davidson, you know, crowd.
No, but I
versus-
think as long as we can have some kind of enforcement that keeps it at the 20 mile per hour and not have people soup it up or try to bypass those restrictions, I think those are going to be the best thing for our society in the future, because yeah, it is going to take people out of cars. It is going to introduce them to the joy of bicycling. And then some of them may decide that, okay, I have a regular non-electric bike and an electric bike and my car, and I'll use the different one for depending where I want to go and when.
Well, one of the things, you know, Mark talked about with the, you know, Pedego system and others is that you do the electric assist, you know, the pedal assist allows people like yours truly who haven't ridden a bike since I was 13 to be able, yes, I'm confessing this to the world.
That's good.
You know, yeah, on a regular bicycle, you'd be dealing with the wobbles and going all over the place and, you know, pretty much crashing. And with the electric assist, with the pedal assist and the electric, I called it balancer, because you were able to kick that in and steady the bike, get the speed up and not be all over the place. And so you're able to quickly, I'll say it's like get back on and learning how to ride a bicycle all over again. I mean, so do you find, you know, with the Pedego and other electric bikes that it will, you know, get people like myself who only rode a bike as a kid, and that's a kid experience, we're car bound, we have a car mentality. Do you think that that will help get people out of the cars and to use these bicycles?
Oh, for sure. One of my favorite comments was from a friend of mine, Yesenia. Actually, she became a friend of ours because she bought a bike. And she came in the next day and she said, I feel like I'm 12 years old, it's Christmas Day, and I just got a magic carpet ride. And that was my favorite statement that I've
That's
heard
good, magic carpet ride.
from anyone. Yeah, they get people back on bikes. We just sold a bike to a gentleman in Eva Beach. I delivered it the other day. He said he hadn't ridden a bike from when he was in his 20s. He's in his 60s, late 60s now, I imagine.
Yeah.
And he's back on a bike riding around Eva Beach instead of in his car.
His name's not Bob McDermott, is it?
No,
Just kidding.
Um,
There's somebody who needs to get on a bike. Just, no, kidding, of course. But anyway, you know, in Eva Beach, that's a good example. You know, that's an area where they have, you know, Ocean Point development and a lot of congestion coming on with traffic, you know, in that area. Do you, you know, especially with city and county, they have developments coming on. Do you see there's a move at the city and county level or by the communities to demand as new projects are built in these areas that the developers incorporate complete street smart road into their designs?
Well, I can only speak about Kailua because I barely ever leave because I don't get in my truck or on my bike. And they just put those new condos on Kailua Road. And they put a bike lane in with them. And I think part of the deal was for the developer that he had to have a bike lane on the road now. They've widened it. They've actually put planters in the middle of the road. It's really beautiful, and I like the fact that they're making the developers sort of step up to the plate and put bike lanes in. Our traffic, we always get rated the worst traffic in the country, which I don't see because I travel quite a bit, and I go to like California. Oh my God, I went to Virginia last summer, and there was bumper-to-bumper traffic for 50 miles. And I'm not kidding. And so I think maybe per mile we may have the worst, but we don't drive real long distances. So.
Except for the people out in West Oahu, you know, who make that commute right there. And that goes back to the idea of connection, creating these connecting routes where, you know, either by, do you see in this system in your mind's eye, you know, as by a commuting staging areas, you know, parking areas where people would then drive their car to the North Shore, park in this, and then use the bicycle to get around. Is that something that you see going forward as part and parcel with these bike?
Well, you mentioned West Oahu. There's a Leeward bike path that is a state project, so yay, DOT. It's going to connect the current Pearl Harbor bike path, which goes from roughly Arizona Memorial to Waipahu. Right now, that's 9 miles. And this Leeward bike path is going to extend that by 14 more miles. 5 miles to Kapolei from Waipahu, and then to Waianae from Kapolei. So that's something very flat out there. You'll be able to go basically from Waianae to Honolulu. In Honolulu, we still need to make a transition to get to downtown, but that's going to be a great way to get, from Waianae to Honolulu.
That is
And
a-
it's not hard to bike 20 miles.
Yeah.
It's not hard. People get used to it really quickly.
Okay,
You give them an electric bike, they can do it from
Yeah.
day one. Yeah.
Definitely, because you definitely can on the electric bike, make those distances. But Waianae, like West Maui and a lot of other areas, you have one road in and out, and a lot of times you'll have an accident or something that closes this highway, and many times people have to evacuate, and you'll get the gridlock of cars, is what happened to Houston. Do you see the bicycle, especially in those areas, and these bike things as public safety, devices as well, where people needing to evacuate or get around these areas could do so in times of emergency?
Well, I lived on Kauai during Hurricane Iniki, it's more than 20 years ago now. And yeah, there was a point where all the telephone poles were down, you couldn't go past, but you could ride a bike. And so you were self-sufficient and you could do that.
Well, it's funny because the Pentagon itself did a study, on resiliency efforts, and they just the bicycle. You're right. The bicycle, those who be able to ride a bike, that is actually, believe it or not, the first line of mobility response when you have complete, like an EMP or something that takes mechanized vehicles out of the equation, and is including mechanized vehicles themselves, because the roads, as you discovered in Houston with the hurricane evacuation, were never meant to take all those cars at one time, and they gridlock. People were literally abandoning their cars and running from them. So if you had bicycles, some type of if there was an education campaign, hey, this is part of your hurricane kit or whatever, you could avoid situations like that, right? In the case of Waianae or Kailua, you have something coming, people can evacuate.
If we were to have a tsunami in Lanikai, could you imagine the traffic of everybody trying to evacuate out? I mean, one way in, one way out. It's horrendous. So on a bike, whether you're on an electric bike, a regular bike, whatever, you could get up to mid-pack and right over into Enchanted Lakes. You wouldn't even have to be on the roads. Yeah, they're a total safety
lifesaver.
issue.
Yeah, the water's coming. I mean, imagine if you were, in Indonesia, the waters receding. Boy, I bet you wish you had an electric bike right now.
And speaking of Indonesia and Southeast Asia, when you go there, I would say 30, 40, 50% of the people are on bikes. I've seen guys riding a bike with a pig rolled up in a blanket,
Pig in a blanket.
stuck in the bars where they're taking their pig to market on their bike.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing I want to touch upon is, some of these cargo systems, or, you see them for bicycles where you can have like a trailer and apparatus for people. You see it in Southeast Asia particularly. Do you see those types of attachments, apparatuses, as helping to spread the bike culture, making it easier for families, especially to get to the beach and do things, where the number one complaint here, well, I love bikes, but I got stuff, I got a family, I can't take bicycles. Is that helping in that area at all?
There's good attachments you can buy now that just go right on the back of your bike, and you can carry groceries, and if you want to carry more than groceries, you can put a bigger trailer. And people even move their house when they move. They say, okay, on Saturday, from 9 to 1, I'm going to move. Everybody with bikes and bike trailers come. Actually, we don't have that in Hawaii yet, but in Portland and other places, they do that a lot. So
that's a good initiative. I mean, something that we should look at here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's the environmental part of it, right? I mean, who out there really doesn't think that global warming is worsened by human beings and our use of energy? Is there anybody out there? I mean, well, okay, there may be a few. But if you really believe that, then you can do things on a daily level to reduce your use of petroleum fuels. And it just takes that mindset, right? I work in Kaimuki, and I usually bike down here, but because I have a broken foot, I use the car. And yet somebody who was meeting with me said, "You want me to drop you off?" And then my initial reaction was no, because how am I going to get back? And then later on I realized, hey, actually I have an annual bus pass. I should have been dropped off, and then I could have caught the bus back. So it's just having a mentality that when you can, wherever you can, try to walk, bike, or carpool, or use mass transit. And then if we did, we'd really make a dent in that global warming
And then that's
scenario.
the complete streets idea. It's not just biking, it's walking and biking, alternative modes of transportation.
Yeah.
Those are the types of things. And you talk about the environmental impact and global warming, greenhouse gases. The University of Hawaii at Manoa studies showing the inundation zones
Yeah.
in the Waikiki area. All of this is things that people really want to be concerned about reducing their carbon footprint they should look at, right?
Right. When the houses out in the North Shore were, was eroding and they were almost falling into water, my thought was, we feel sorry for that person happening, and what can we do about it? It's a small thing, and more people in the world got to do it, but how about once a week, let's ride a bike, once a week, let's walk instead of drive, and slowly we'll start changing that, changing the tide.
What? Oh, go ahead, Mark, please.
I was going to say, Pedego's coming out with a cargo bike soon, and it's got a big basket on the front that's actually welded to the frame. It's not on the handlebars, so it doesn't make you all tippy. The back, I don't know if you've seen cargo bikes before, but it's got that big platform on the back, which can either carry people or you can carry cargo. For me, again, I said I'm a general contractor. I have a big basket on the back of my bike that I put my tools in, and I ride from my house to my job site every day.
So that's important too. People, I mean, you commute with bikes to your job. A lot of people say, oh, contractor can't do it, have the tools, but yet you do it. Do you think that among the business people, in your industry, for instance, that there's that there's a reluctance to use bicycling for commuting to the job site, that they don't understand that these types of advancements exist?
Well, yeah, we do use trucks. We have to take our tools, but we put them in our knack boxes. We lock them up at night, so everything's on the job site that we need. We have materials delivered instead of going to pick them up. And for us, we're kind of, again, the exception. Most contractors wouldn't do that. They need their big F350 dualies that burn a gallon in 8 miles. But we are getting a lot more doctors that live in the Kailua area that are riding up to Castle Hospital on their electric bikes or even on their bikes. And I think, people now know that the carbon footprint is really affecting us huge. Global warming, I love the fact that people are like, no, this isn't happening. Well, look at the weather that the mainland has had this year with all the snow. The Great Lakes only defrosted last week, was the last ice that left. And now they have giant rainstorms, flooding, the fires in California, which, those are actually pretty common. But our climate is changing, and we are to blame no matter what anyone says. Yeah, everything changes. We're just speeding up the process 100-fold.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So-
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back to talk more with Mark and Chad about biking and looking at perhaps rideshare in Hawaii. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Yamashita, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And urban transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to Facing Our Future. I'm your host, Angus McKelvey, and we're joined by Chad Taniguchi and Mark Librie, talking about bicycling, transportation, safe streets, and is this the road to our future, a cleaner environment and a more cost-friendly way to get around town. Speaking of getting around town, we went to break, we were talking about the professionals using bicycling for commuting, maybe not a big fit, but Chad, you were talking about this, there's maybe an image thing, that it's not professional to be using a bicycle. Explain, please.
Yeah, I think if people in general now, if somebody goes to work on a bike, they're kind of looked at like, oh, you're not that professional, or what, you can't afford a car, or, it's not the norm. So I want to congratulate Mark for being a contractor, he's breaking the mold, going to his work site on a bike. And I think if we change that outlook and not equate car with status, and look at, if we ride a bike or walk, we're actually helping, we're being socially responsible toward the whole earth and to our neighbors, so that it's a good thing to be low footprint, walk, bike, as opposed to
Well, it
you're
makes-
out of the norm.
It
Yeah.
makes business sense. Like in your case, you talked about the F-150 truck that gets the whopping 8 miles a gallon. Obviously bringing it a little bit lower. But the fact of this is you have high gas. You could have a situation where gas goes easily over $5 a gallon. And doesn't this chew into your bottom line? Isn't using a bike to commute when you can, also make good business sense as far as it helping expense?
Yeah, well, like I said, I fill my truck up every 2 to 3 weeks, so that on my bottom line is
not a
huge. That
lot.
I'm not spending that $200, $300, $400 in that 2-week period. I'm on a bike instead.
So a company should look at this then, as a cost-saving mechanism.
Even the health of employees, the companies that encourage walking and biking to work, their employees tend to be healthier. That means their health insurance premiums are lower.
Yes.
And it's proven. So
Definitely, and that's why you have, and actually the federal government now is giving, money to help in these types of wellness programs, and that's biking is a big one of them for commuting, as well as the other thing that companies are using them for is morale building, team building, to get people to kind of bond. Do you see bicycling beyond transportation? Do you see it as a community builder, something that allows people to, slow down, spend time together, and not be siloed within their cars?
Oh, well, yeah, recreation use of bicycling is every weekend you see people biking. That's why our rides for Hawaii Bicycling League are so popular. People want to be able to ride with friends, and when there's a lot of people bicycling, then it tends to be safer because the drivers are looking out for the next bicyclist up the road.
And it slows the flow down too, like we were talking about earlier. You have bicyclists, and you can feel it. I mean, when you enter an area where you see the bicyclists, are people usually walking. It's more of a slower, leisurely lifestyle and pace, which we remember in our rural communities as being the norm, not the exception.
I'm one of those drivers that I'm in the car going,
Really not you.
and then I'm on my bike and I'm the happiest guy on the planet because I'm not confined by all the cars around me. I can, turn on, go here, go there, go on trails instead of going on the roads. It relaxes me, it keeps me calm and sedate. Namaste.
Namaste. Don't do that on bicycle.
Like a ride with no hands.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that Chad, we talked about, before we went to break, was in the bus situation, coming to a meeting and how do I get back? And what some cities have done, New York, Washington, D.C. in particular, is bike share, where you have bikes that are in certain places, usually next to municipal mass transit, where you can take the bike, use it for things, block it, and then walk or bike or bus in the area. Do you see something like that as being something Hawaii should pursue, especially in areas like Kaka'ako, when you're going to have this new development coming on and a greater need for people to be able to get around like that?
Actually, this is 2014. Sometime in 2015, Bike Share Hawaii is going to get off the ground.
Okay.
And that's been supported $1 million by the state of Hawaii, the city council, Honolulu, $1 million. And then it's to build a system of about 1,700 bikes with about 170 stations, and each station having about 10 bikes, and each station being about a quarter mile from the next station. It's going to take about $11 or $12 million for Honolulu, Waikiki, downtown, UH. So it has a good start. They're about to hire an executive director. They have a plan already. And then the next step would be to raise money from the private sector, because businesses are going to want bike share stations next to them or nearby, and then go out and get a bid from a provider of bikes. And then when that, it's supposed to happen in 2015.
2015
sometime.
when this will get kicked out. What's the general rollout of this? Like you said, they're going to concentrate in Waikiki, Manoa, and those areas first, and then expand out, or is there some type of a master plan that's being considered?
The plan is to make Honolulu the city center, downtown Waikiki and UH, to have a lot of these stations between there. And so, quarter mile is not really far, right? It's 400 yards, 500 yards. If you can walk from wherever you are for 400 yards, get a bike, then you can extend your range another mile or two to the next station where you go. Then you park your bike, do your meeting, or go eat lunch or swimming or whatever. Then when you plow, find another bike and then go back to where you come or to your next place.
So what would you say to the naysayer who'd be like, oh my, this is a potential waste of money. People are going to steal the bikes. They're going to vandalize them. They'll be getting new bikes all the time. What would you counter to somebody who had
It's proven technology. You see it in Paris, Washington, D.C., San Francisco. It's proven technology because in order to get the bike, people put their credit card, so then they're responsible for the
that
bike.
will definitely do it right there.
And then it's a locking system, so you can't steal it from there. And it's a proven system that's been helped by the kind of cell phone type technology. You can even check the dock that you're going to and see, are there spaces available for me to park the bike? When you want to go, you can check whether the bike's available. So.
Well, one of the things that actually happened with the DC program, is they had video footage in both from New York of people using the bikes and crashing into the bushes and not being able to, basically use the bikes because they weren't trained the proper way, or they just thought they could do it, thinking, hey, this is easy, I'll get on. Yeah. And they obviously saw a need for an educational campaign too. Do you think that as Bike Share Hawaii moves forward, that this will be part of their strategy so that people who do use them, don't end up crashing?
No, the Hawaii Bicycling League, we teach people how to ride bikes for free. If you don't know how to ride a bike at all, we'll teach you. Okay, if you ride a bike but you're not comfortable, we'll teach you the rules of the road, get you to practice in a parking lot, and then take you out on the road with trained leaders on the road. And we do that in all over. We do that in Kailua, Aiea, Manoa, and pretty soon we're going to do North Shore and Mililani too. So Hawaii Bicycling League, just Google us. You'll see these programs that are free. And we also teach drivers
very good one.
To drive safely around pedestrians and bicyclists. And
now, on the bike share program, I'm going to throw this out there since we have Mark here. And maybe this is being discussed in other areas. Are they eventually going to be looking at trying to incorporate electric bikes into the mix, especially in areas where the terrain could prevent some challenges, for the bike stations, like up in Manoa, for instance. We have that big hill going up to the university. Is that something that's in discussion or something that could be contemplated?
I think electric bikes for Americans are so new that there's no real discussion about it. We're being discovered right now. I was one of those naysayers. My wife wanted an electric bike. Well, you don't need an electric bike. And then I went out and bought a new stand-up paddleboard, and she said, oh, that's beautiful. How much did that cost? And I told her, she said, yeah, I'm getting the bike. And when she did, and I rode it, a light bulb went off. Because until you're on them, you really don't know what it's about. That's why, we give free test rides. We try and get people on them so that they understand. I think that Hawaii, Oahu, should really take its example from Amsterdam. And if you're in Amsterdam, the Dutch are on their bikes all the time. They barely drive. And again, fuel prices have gotten so high, and the infrastructure of the country has made it so this is all possible. It makes sense that we get people on bikes, whether they're regular bikes, they're cargo bikes, pizza delivery guys on them, they're cruiser bikes on the beach, they're mountain bikes. I mean, people need to be on bikes and not burning fossil fuels.
Well, don't you think that some of these new pricing systems to replace the fuel tax by the federal government, like vehicle miles traveled, will create that incentive? Because now if you're paying a fee on your vehicle's miles traveled, and you're using a car to do a lot of small distance trips back and forth, I mean, is that some of the types of incentives or things that should be looked at, as far as re-incentivizing people to look at the cost, not just of the gas, but all the ancillary things that go to running a car?
Well, sure, but that tax money should be used for bike lanes and, to get people on bikes for the bike share program and not just go into the general fund and get lost. It's, that's one of the problems with how our state regulates our money is they just put it all in the general fund.
Well, actually on this one, they does stay in the special fund, but you're right. Within that special highway fund, which is generated out of fuel tax, it's up to the state to apportion and pull down federal monies for bicycling and not just commit it all to the big projects, the highway projects and such. So,
That's right.
so that is definitely is within that special fund. Although it is separated out, there is definitely a need still to make sure that the money is being pulled down and spent on establishing these bikeable, safe routes. You know, along with other types of road systems. Does what?
Since
Definitely.
2005, the Hawaii Bicycling League got a state law passed that said 2% of the eligible federal monies are to be used for bike lanes and bike paths. And we constantly are asking DOT, how are you spending that money? Please give us the report, so that they actually spend it on doing that. They claim that they're spending more than 2%. We just want to see that more in black and white,
Yes.
and we want to see that often.
Yeah, exactly. Show me
Yeah.
where this is being deployed. Is there a master plan? Is there a commitment by the state transportation to embrace what communities want, right? I mean, this is what
Yeah.
communities completely are embracing, and they want both within private developments, and could be the tool for a lot of dealing with a lot of headaches, like for instance, potentially Kaka'ako if they develop that area, which has been discussed. I mean, that's one area where if the commitment is made beyond that 2%, then, and you establish these bikeable areas, walking, biking, safe routes, that you will bring the congestion and the need for these multi-million-dollar highway projects out of
I
it.
think the developers in Kaka'ako see the need for bikes, and we've actually been contacted by one of the developers about getting one of our stores in the new condo downstairs so that people can get bikes. And so people are becoming more and more aware that this is the best way, especially if you live in Kaka'ako and you work downtown. Why would you even want to get in a car? The bus system is great, but again, you have to wait for the bus. You have to get off and walk, where you can just bike right to where you're going.
Yeah, and that is really, and this is builds again communities. It slows things down. You have less accidents and congestion. So biking as a transportation, as a commuting, as an environmental alternative surely seems to be the fit for Hawaii as we're going forward. And going forward and facing our future, it would probably be best if we remember that biking should be an integral part of the new future ahead of us.
You know, we have some of the best weather in the world. It rains a little bit. Now, well, this year it rained a lot. But if you think of the people in Amsterdam, in Paris, in Europe that are riding their bikes, it's freezing cold, it's snowing, and they're still on their bikes because, again, it makes sense. So for us, with such a mild climate, everybody should be biking. You know, our generation, we all rode bicycles as kids. The new generation now, kids are in there with their all their electronics, and they're not out on bikes. And so I think, you know, it's up to parents to get their kids on bikes, to get them outside, and to teach them that this is the wave of the future.
Mark, somebody wants interested in more information. How can they get a hold of you? Website, perhaps?
Our website, www.pedegokailua.com. And you can, once you're on the website, you can call. My number's on there, and we'll give you all the information we can and try and get you guys on bikes.
Chad, Hawaii Bicycling Lead, once again. How do
Hawaii
people know?
Bicycling League, just Google us, or hbl.org.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. This was an exciting subject, something that is very timely given the transportation challenges both in Oahu and statewide. I'm Angus McKelvey, and this has been Facing Our Future. Join us next Wednesday when we come back with another exciting topic, looking ahead to our future. How do we define it? How do we embrace it? And how do we take challenges and turn them into opportunities? Aloha and have a great week.